Okay. I grew up as a Southern Iowa farm boy down by Corridon, about an hour south of here. Former chief engineer, former CEO of Shivvers Manufacturing, Corridon, Iowa. A few of you may know of our products down there. Carrie Noble, Carrie, where'd you stand? Carrie, where'd she go? She's outside. Anyway, Carrie Noble is a co-owner. She grew up in northwestern Wisconsin. Former life is lay midwifery, homeschooling, disability awareness, advocacy, social work with nonprofits. Okay, mission statement. I'm going to read this. We promote the use of open source, accessible technologies that enable people to be agents of restoration in their communities and for the planet through regenerative agricultural practices such as multi-species cover crops and fungal and bacteria-rich inoculants that reintroduce the vast wealth of soil communities. People here have already talked about why you may want to do regenerative ag. It increases your soil fertility, gives you better plant health and nutrient density, helps with flooding, and you know, when it rains, it can, if you do it well, you're getting all the rain. Gabe Brown says when it rains, he gets all of it. Higher margin for the farmers, more profitability, and gives less pollution and cleaner water. If everybody's doing this, Mississippi might not be muddy anymore. Another reason here is Dr. David Johnson says that if regenerative ag was being done well across the world, humanity would be sequestering twice the amount of carbon dioxide that humanity emits every year. So that's another reason you might want to be interested in this. Thank you. Okay, now, this is a very interesting slide. You probably can't read this, but plant succession ladder as a function of fungal bacterial ratio. And down here, fungal to bacterial of 1:1 is where your row crops do really well. Unfortunately, with the practices we've been doing with conventional agriculture the past several decades, we're down here like 0.01, so like 1/100th of what's really good. And and I think we need to thank Dr. Johnson for being one who really kind of discovered that it's the fungal to bacterial ratio. That's one of the major determinants of your healthy plants. Dr. Johnson and his wife Wei Chin, with their original design, Johnson Sioux, as said, produce a fungal dominant and biologically diverse compost inoculant. What is it? As we just said, diverse and fungal rich, and I like to call it multifunctional biological, because if your plant needs a biological product in there, undoubtedly your Johnson Sioux has it. Contains hundreds of species of fungal spores and bacterial cysts. And when you see, I have a sample of outside here, a handful of it is like a clay, and that contains millions of spores of fungi and bacteria in it, just a very small amount. So repopulate soil biology, and Dr. Johnson has made it open source so you can make your own. As it's been talked about before, your Johnson Sioux compost contains species that fixate nitrogen, make your phosphorus, potassium, and your minor minerals available to your plants, generate phytohormones for your plants, provides drought resistance, degrade pesticides and herbicides, and as a gentleman from Green Cover is talking about, enable quorum sensing, and also cycles the carbon for the carbon dioxide sequestration. It's beneficial for almost all plant species. I won't say all, but I don't know that. As far as I know, it's beneficial for all, but it may not be. Row crops, pastures, hay ground, orchards, etc. So I like to think of it as two major different ways of thinking of it. If you want to use it with your conventional row crop agriculture, think of it as a multifunctional biological that will undoubtedly boost your yields some. Okay? It doesn't have 10 species in it, it doesn't have 30 species in it, it has hundreds of species in it. The other way to think about it is if you really want to get the real benefit of it, and this is kind of my opinion, if you combine it with a prior season diverse multi-species cover crop, then the next year you can greatly reduce your NPK on a crop such as cotton or corn that takes a lot of nitrogen. And that's where you get the real boost of it, and part of that is you're getting the quorum sensing that Davis was talking about. How to use it? We recommend using it as an extract, where you take 1 or 2 pounds of the compost and 50 to 20 gallons of water per acre, and you just agitate it really well in one way or another, such as the extractor that Blake over here at Core Bio has for you. You can inoculate your seed with it, and that costs pennies an acre. In-furrow with your liquid fertilizer attachment, broadcast as soil drinks, foliar spray, as one do residue decomposition, you can do that in the fall. I owe a lot to Chris Teach out here in fall 2021. Somebody who here knows Chris Teach out? Okay, yeah, Chris is a farmer down in Shenandoah, Iowa. He's been doing regenerative ag for years. He's been doing John Johnson Sioux for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, maybe more now. To the best of my knowledge, he's the one who first started what we call the IBC tote design. Here's one of the original designs that we made a couple of years ago. Here's what we prefer today, and the only real change I've made from what Chris did. Chris puts 5 tubes in, I put 6 tubes in, just to be sure it gets good aeration. Some of our equipment, small tub grinder, a hammer mill for sizing wood chips. We automate our water system, and that can control down to the seconds. And we like to use a heat oven test to monitor what moisture content is of the compost. Then we also mix it well with this mixing wagon. We found that feedstocks do make a difference. Dr. Johnson will tell you that almost any kind of dry vegetation material will work, and I'm sure he's right. I've tried different mixtures of oat straw, rye straw, corn stalks, wood chips, alfalfa hay, also a hay ground, which had hay and brome and etc. in it, alfalfa and hay in it. And they all act differently. They take water differently, they mature at different rates, they get hotter or colder in the process, and basically I can just tell you what we do and what we like, and that's alfalfa hay, organic alfalfa hay, organic oat straw, and wood chips. And that's a mixture that's been doing quite well for us. Here's an example of what you can do if you do this multi-species cover crop a season prior. This was a test Dr. Johnson did down in Arizona. It was on Arizona land that was conventionally farmed previously. Here he applied Johnson-Su, no nitrogen. Here he applied Johnson-Su and 33 units of nitrogen. And here, conventional, no Johnson-Su, and 256 units of nitrogen, which is what the farmer normally used. So, okay, that's fine. So, and this was the profitability difference. Here's the yields, very similar. The one with just Johnson-Su was a little bit less. In terms of profitability, the one that had the 33 units in, or 15% what the farmer normally uses, was the most profitable. That was back in 2019. This is Jay Young. He's a farmer out in western Kansas. He's been doing Johnson-Su for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years now. And he's kind of duplicated what Dr. Johnson did, kind of. He raises a multi-species forage crop each season. Then he grazes that off with his cattle in the fall and winter. Then he plants his corn crop with greatly reduced NP&K. I'm almost sure he uses no P&K, and he's greatly reduced his nitrogen. And he's gaining about $200 an acre more profit because of he's doing it that way. So I want to put a plug in for a couple of rotations I think kind of mimics that here for Iowa Midwestern farmers. A 3-year rotation, corn, soybean, small grain. So it'll be corn, soybean, small grain, and then after the small grain harvest, put in your multi-species cover crop. And that one's been treated multi-species. I like to recommend 6 to 8 or 9 different families. And that's when you get the quorum sensing going in that Davis was talking about. And then next year, put your corn in and reduce your NP&K. Do that in some trials, see how it works out for you. Next one, some of you may have heard about 60-inch corn. The idea here is you put your corn in 60-inch rows to 30-inch rows, and in between that, you plant your multi-species in the space in between. And then next year, you move your corn rows over 30 inches. So now you're planting your corn in this broad swath that was multi-species the year prior. So that year then you can start reducing NP&K. Again, I think that holds promise. I know one farmer is trying that in Indiana right now. And anyway, it's something like, just like I put a plug in for it.